Do you dream of writing a novel? When you feel the urgency to write a novel, you aren't making it up. When that urgency won't let go, there's a reason. Turn your readers into raving fans. Reveal the power of your voice and your story. Writing is an act of courage, and you have what it takes. How to Write a Novel That Sells by Lana McAra will take you across the finish line. Visit howtowriteanovelthatsells.net and take that powerful next step now.
Welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana McAra, where you will discover tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Here you'll find new energy, new perspectives, new resources, and new ideas that will spark your creativity into a blaze of brilliance. It's easier than you think. Be sure you visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, get out your notebook, tune in, and let's get started.
Who doesn't love a mystery? Well, a mystery where the ghost solves his own murder. Now that has got my attention. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. My name is Lana McAra. Welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast, tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Today, I'm delighted to welcome to the podcast Lisa Jones Gentry. Lisa is an author, a member of the Writers Guild of America, an artist, and a writer-producer for film, television, and digital content. A Dead Man Speaks garnered an NAACP Image Award nomination for Best Debut Author, followed by a Literary Critics Award nomination for Best General Fiction. Her most recent book, Forbidden Love, is currently being made into a film, film based on her own screenplay. Oh my gosh, Lisa, welcome.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. I appreciate you having me on this podcast, and I'm excited about our conversation.
I'm excited too. It isn't very often that I talk to someone who has also written a screenplay.
Yes.
So that's usually like two separate things.
Yes.
Yes. So kudos to you.
Thank
so let's
you.
dive into this. So what got you started with fiction?
So actually, as a screenwriter. So I started as a screenwriter. Sometimes it goes the other way, but I started as a screenwriter, and all of my scripts were fiction, and was doing great, had an agent, and all of that great stuff. And then one day I just decided I really, really wanted to write a novel, because the process of writing a novel and writing a screenplay are very different. I'm also a lawyer, and as a lawyer, a screenplay sort of hits all of our little boxes because it has to be a certain number of pages, and certain things have to happen by certain page numbers. But a novel, you have the ability to kind of, really expound a little bit more. There's no specific number. I mean, they want it to be certain word counts, but it's not like a screenplay. And so I got very excited about the ability or the opportunity to write something that I didn't feel like I was going to be so restricted in terms of page count or word count. And I love murder mysteries. I had a couple of my screenplays were murder mysteries. So I was already kind of into that genre. And I liked everything paranormal. That was my other thing, because I had actually a number of people in my family who were actual real psychics. And so I grew up in that environment. And so I wanted to do something that kind of married my love of mystery, but also my interest with paranormal and spirituality, but in a way that was really super commercial. And hence, A Dead Man Speaks.
What a great idea. Where did that come to you? How did you get that idea?
Well, I was, kind of, surfing around on the internet, and I was reading various things about what happens when someone moves beyond and they're killed or they die suddenly and they don't know what happens. And it sort of kind of a little light bulb went off, and I'm like, well, what if someone was killed from behind, they didn't know who did it, what happened to them? Where would their spirit go? Would it be just like, boom, we go to wherever they're going to go, up or down? Or is there some searching? Is there some restlessness that has to be addressed before someone can truly have peace. And so I thought, okay, so what if someone had everything that you could ever want from a material perspective, but the one thing that eluded them was true peace? And the reason they didn't have that is because they never knew why they were in this situation. So that's what made me think about it. And I thought about, you know, people who have, apparently all material things that they would want. And that's our guy, Clive. He definitely seems to, sorry, upside down, seem to have everything from a material perspective, but yet he was still tortured. And yet he was still living in a state where he had no peace. And so all of those things sort of factored into the story that ultimately came out.
Wow, that is so interesting. I write paranormal mysteries,
Oh, okay.
and I've never thought about having a ghost trying to solve his own murder.
And actually, this is a series. So the next book in the series, called Dead Men Never Lie, comes out sometime, I'm not sure when, later this year, early next year, also with Sibylline Press. And it's the sequel to this. It's some of the same characters, but it's a different ghost. So Clive is still back. He's still running the show. But there's another person who has had an equally, shall we say, surprising in demise. And so Clive and Detective Bob, now working together as a team, help this other person figure out who did it and why. So that's Dead Men Never Lie. And actually, the first two or three chapters of that book are in the end of this book. So you get a little bit of a teaser.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
I love doing that too. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the first book, and give me that title again. It's
Oh, so this was actually the first book, A Dead Man Speaks. So that is this book here. And this is the one that is currently out. It was the one that was nominated for an Image Award and also a Literary Critics Award. And this book, I don't know if you want me to tell you a little bit about it. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So this book is the story of this guy, Clive January, who is the ghost. And these two women are the two main women in his life, both of whom happen to also be suspects in his murder. And so Clive January is an uber successful investment banker. He's got money, he's got fame, he's got a beautiful home in the Hamptons, he's got a beautiful apartment on Central Park West, but then he is shot and killed from behind and doesn't know who did it. So as he lies dying, he hears these voices that say, you must look back, you must find out who did it or you have no peace. And so ultimately, his ghost works with Detective Bob, who is the NYPD detective assigned to the case to solve the crime. And Detective Bob has his own interesting story. He happens to be psychic. And he, prior to a big brouhaha with internal affairs, he was the detective that could solve the crimes that no one else could, because he could literally look into the eyes of the victim. But now this terrible thing happened, and now he's got to prove that he still got it. So he is psychic, as I mentioned, and so Clive is able to communicate to him through dreams and visions. So he's able to communicate parts of his past that he thinks are relevant to figuring out why this happened. So ultimately, the two of them work together. They're able to solve the crime in a really sort of climactic ending. But what he realizes in the end is that if he is not able to love and forgive the person who killed him, he'll have no peace. So ultimately, the book is about the redemptive power of love and forgiveness within the context of a paranormal murder mystery.
Wow, very interesting. I'm captivated already.
Thank you. Thank you. A Dead Man Speaks. You can get it out, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, print book, ebook, soon audiobook. So it's out there if anybody likes that type of thing. This is it.
A Dead Man Speaks.
Yes.
So how long did it take you to write that?
So interesting. It only took about 6 months to write the whole book. And what I did was I wrote about 10 pages a day. And so what I would do is I would go to the Beverly Hills Library. I was living in LA at the time. And I would sit there and have my laptop and I would write 10 pages a day. Now, they may not have been 10 great pages a day, but at least it was 10 pages a day. And so by the end of that time period, I had a pretty decent first draft. But then I continued to rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it over like a number of years, probably 2 or 3 years, just rewriting, getting notes from people, getting comments, rewriting again. The basic story never changed, but there were a lot of things I needed to flesh out more. I needed to do better character development, but the basic beats of the story I came up with like that. And it's why I started writing. I just did the whole story just kind of came to me. So I wrote out the beats of the story. By that, I mean the main things that happened in the story. So, who was the murderer? Number one, you got to figure that out. You can't write a murder mystery if you don't know who actually killed the person. Then who are all the different suspects? How does it all line up? How much backstory are you going to give on the main character, and what are the main big things that happen in the book? So I started out with a very broad outline of kind of the 6 or 7 main beats, and then it just got more and more detailed, and then I finally sat down and started writing. So
did you ever find out that you got like writer's block or you got stuck or anything?
I did not. I've not, it's not that I have never had writer's block, but I've usually been doing so many different things at the same time, whether it's writing a book and a screenplay at the same time, or, various things within the writing universe. And so usually if I got writer's block on one thing, then I'm kind of switch my attention to another thing. So that would kind of unblock me. But I personally found the best way to overcome writer's block is just to write something. It may not be great, but it's better to write something to sit at the computer and stare at the words on the screen. At least for me, I found that if I give myself a goal of a certain number of pages a day, whether it's 5 pages, 10 pages, usually not more than 10, but 5 pages a day, even if I get 3 of the 5 done, it's like, okay, at least you got something done. And a lot of times when people ask me, so how do you write the novel? I'm like, 1 page a day. Write 1 page a day for a year and you have 365 pages. And it may not be the best 365 pages. I'm not suggesting you send that first draft out to people, but at least now you've got something to work on. If you absolutely discipline yourself enough to say, I don't care what else I'm doing, I'm going to take enough time to write 1 page today. And I'm not going to throw the page away. A lot of writers, they'll write a page and then they'll delete it. Then they'll run, no. Don't delete it. Just write that page and then move on to the next one. Write an outline first. I always recommend. Some people write kind of stream of consciousness. I always write an outline. So write an outline so you know where the story is going. And then once you have that outline, whether you do it in terms of major events, like if it's a screenplay, you do it based on acts. If it's a novel, you usually do it based on kind of major inflections in the story and chapters. So however you're going to do it, make sure you write some kind of outline, and then you just kind of start doing the work,
Working through it, right?
It's working through it. Yeah.
I don't usually have a problem with getting stuck once I'm in the story, but if I ever have a place where I find I'm avoiding the computer, I suddenly get this intense urge to clean my refrigerator.
Right. Clean out that closet that's been blocking forever.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I know. Or walk around the block and start a new exercise regime or something. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's great advice. Just to write something. Just write something.
Just write something. It may not be great. No one else has to see it but you. But just force yourself to write something. I think that's the main thing.
Yes, absolutely. So how do you deal with a compelling topic? If you have a really compelling topic, what's the best way to approach it?
You mean it just a compelling topic, period?
For a book. If you have a topic that comes up like this one, where you've got this dead guy and he's going to solve his own mystery, how do you create, something from that big idea?
Oh, okay. I think the best thing is that you have to focus on the characters and to figure out who your main character is and what their story is. So I focused on him first. And, I thought of this guy, like I said, who has seemingly everything. And then you try to say, okay, what are his or her challenges? What are the challenges? What's their backstory? Did they have an easy childhood, a difficult childhood? Did they love their parents? Did they hate their parents? I mean, I think you have to start with the characters. I mean, I think if you, like, maybe you have a story, like it's a historical story, like there was this huge fire. I didn't want to say fires, not the LA fires, but let's say there was this big event that happened in this small town and no one knew why it happened, and it changed the lives of the people in the town, just, kind of high level, 30,000 foot level. So then you have to think about, okay, so this event happened, but who did it happen to? And then you think about, well, who is the likely main character? What do they do? Why are they there? Who are their friends? Who are their enemies? And then once you get the universe down in terms of who you're talking about, then it's easier to kind of weave in the story, because a good story should always come from the characters. The story should be informed by the characters. If you have a story that's disconnected from your characters, you probably don't have something that is going to be compelling enough to make people keep reading in this case.
Yes, because it has to be personal.
Right. Exactly. You got to care about the people. You got to care what happens to them and why this happens to them. And if you stop caring, then you probably don't have something that is going to make people really want to keep reading. I mean, sometimes with a film, it's a little different because you can have like lots of crazy action scenes or slasher scenes, and there's certain people that love that, and that's all they need. They don't need story, they don't know character. But with a novel, unless it's a picture book, the only thing you have are the words. And so you have to make sure that if it's an event that is unbelievable, an event without characters is just basically a history lesson. So you want to make sure that the characters come alive, not just the event.
Yes, and the interaction of the
right. Exactly.
Yeah. So aside from the mystery, we know there's a killer, that's a villain.
Right.
But does your story have an external like antagonist against the ghosts?
In this one, there's no external antagonist other than the murderer. Well, no, I take that back. There are some external. Yes, I take that back. There are, because of the way that I did the suspects, a couple of the suspects are definitely, one in particular is definitely could be viewed as an external antagonist. Yes.
Okay, so they're going through these challenges with these different people and trying to sort all of that out. But it sounds like such a good book.
Oh, well, I hope you read it. Thank you.
So the process for converting this into a screenplay, you wrote the novel first or the screenplay first?
No, I've written the novel first. The one that is the screenplay is actually a completely different book. It's called Forbidden Love.
Oh, okay.
And that's a totally different book. It's actually based on a true story, so it's a biography. And it's a story of a guy who is a Harvard Business School graduate, and he found out in his 30s that his birth mother was a white nun and his birth father was a black priest, and they had this very kind of torrid relationship in the late 50s, and they were both in the same parish. He was the assistant pastor and she was one of the nuns. So she got pregnant and they decided to give up the baby, but they were so much in love that he then asked her, because he then got a promotion. The other guy retired, the head priest, and so he became the head of the parish. And he then asked her if she would live with him as his housekeeper. And so they lived essentially as husband and wife, but, to the world, she was the housekeeper for the rest of his life. And then he died in the early 60s. And their son, a guy named Joe Steele, found out about their love story and was able to reunite with his birth mother. His birth father had already died, but he reunited with his birth mother. And so she told him everything that had happened. She had pictures, the whole thing. And so they became very close. And literally on her deathbed, she's like, you need to know the whole truth. And so she just kind of spilled everything out to him. And he had this idea for like 10 years. He'd wanted to write the story of his parents, his birth parents, but, wasn't that type of writer. And so he had actually read this book, A Dead Man Speaks, and approached me and said, could I hire you to do this story, to do this book, which I ultimately did. And then it ended up getting featured in a big article in People magazine. And then we got a lot of Hollywood producers interested in the book. And so that's the book that I wrote the screenplay on. A Dead Man Speaks is actually being developed as well, probably for television though. So that one I have not yet started writing either the screenplay or the TV series on, but it would be a little different. The Forbidden Love, because it's a biography, it's pretty much tracks the book. But A Dead Man Speaks, since it's fiction for television or film, it would probably be a little bit different, probably make it set it in the contemporary time versus 1987. And there's a lot of other changes that would be made, still staying true to the story. But, if it's going to be a television series in particular, you have to fold in more elements of the story than you would if it were like a screenplay, for instance.
Right. It's very interesting. So you live in California.
I don't now, but I used to, yes.
Oh, you used to. Okay.
Yeah, I lived there for a long time. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So what's coming up for you?
Well, I am now working on the sequel to A Dead Man Speaks. So Dead Men Never Lie. So that one will come out, as I said, either later in 2025 or early 2026 with Sibylline Press. And so I'm in the throes of getting that book done.
Okay, awesome. So are you thinking that you might do several of these with the
Oh, yeah. I already have like at least 2 others kind of outlined in terms of how it would go, because the way the book will ultimately go, it could literally go on like forever, or at least for a very long time.
Yeah. Wow. So your ghost is actually like leading the investigation with his living detective.
Exactly. And at some point, the detective who does age, which of course Clive doesn't, actually gets replaced by someone else who was, I'm not going to say how, but it was involved in some of the stories, so that it can continue then through that with that detective and Clive.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Wow. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
So how can people find you?
So I am on, of course, I have my socials, but my socials are actually really under my artist social. I'm a painter as well. So my socials are Issa, ISSA, Fine Art. And then that's the Facebook and Instagram. And then my website is lisajonesgentry.com. So that's the best way to find me. And then A Dead Man Speaks is on Amazon, it's on Barnes & Noble, it's on Apple Books, print, ebook, and like I said, soon to be audiobook. So.
Awesome. And the links will be in the show notes. So wherever you are seeing or hearing this, look in the show notes, get those links, go over, check it out. Looks like a fabulous read.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And please help out the channel by leaving a review, subscribing, liking, and all those good things, because that will help us out so much. Lisa, thank you so much for being.
Thank you, Lana. This was really fun. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I can't wait to read your paranormal mysteries as well. So thank you.
Yes, this has been fun.
Okay.
And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning into the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana McAra, where we share tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Remember to visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Fiction Writers Podcast.